Progressive metal titans Dream Theater return with a rock opera for the ages with The Astonishing. That's coming up next on JO42 Reviews. First things first, Dream Theater is tied with Rush for being my favorite band. As such, I'm inclined to wrap myself in everything they put out to a much deeper degree than what would be necessitated by a standard review. For that reason, I often find myself defending my appreciation of Dream Theater and all Dream Theater albums to moderate fans and non-fans alike. With that in mind, let's talk about the Dream Theater sound. While it's been the one most closely associated with the term progressive metal for nearly 30 years, it's remarkably diverse. Essentially, prog metal takes all the conventions of progressive rock, odd time signatures, atypical song structures, deeply intellectual lyrical themes, and instrumental virtuosity, and cranks it all up to 11, adding the distortion, speed-picking patterns, and overall bombast of heavy metal. It's a sound initially forged by Rush and furthered by Queensryche and Fate's Warning, the two most prominent forerunners of Dream Theater in the prog metal marketplace. But what gives Dream Theater their staying power is the full breadth and width of their sound. Nobody knows how to combine the aforementioned ingredients better than Dream Theater, but what makes them combine so well is their heavy infusion of genres unexplored by their peers. Smooth jazz, new age, jazz fusion, folk, blues, as well as nods to the 80s progressive rock movement known as neo-prog, typified by Marillion, along with a whole host of other genre references, make regular appearances in the Dream Theater world. The result is that there's a core Dream Theater sound that perfectly balances this vast array of influences, and new Dream Theater albums are commonly evaluated based on whether or not they reflect this particular precise balance of sound or focus more on a specific aspect of the overall Dream Theater concept. This core sound can be heard on When Day and Dream Unite, Images and Words, Awake, A Change of Seasons, Scenes from a Memory, and A Dramatic Turn of Events. Of the other albums, Falling into Infinity and Octavarium stress the lighter, ambient, jazz-oriented side of Dream Theater, while Train of Thought, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, Black Clouds and Silver Linings, Systematic Chaos, and the recent self-titled album all lean more on the metal side of things. As such, Dream Theater albums are usually sorted in the fan consciousness based on where they fall along this continuum, with most fans having their personal favorite of the core sound albums and their personal favorite of the derivation sound albums. For me, that would be Scenes from a Memory and Train of Thought, respectively. Although I love everything they have ever put out. So yes, I loved their newest release, The Astonishing. The real challenge in a review like this is to make a case for the integrity and importance of the new album. The Astonishing is Dream Theater's first foray into a narrative-based concept album since 1999's Scenes from a Memory, itself a solidification of a more lyrically abstract piece off of Images and Words. This time around, Dream Theater takes us into the year 2285, where the northeastern United States has been converted into a brutal dystopia with an iron-fisted ruler that controls his subjects using the Nomax, Orwellian surveillance robots that torture the populace with noises that sound suspiciously like dubstep. Then, in a small village on the outskirts of the Empire, a resistance force discovers a secret weapon, a young musician with a voice that can awaken the long-forgotten capacity for human creativity. This isn't just a concept album, it's a bona fide rock opera with all the shameless trappings of classic progressive rock story albums. Whether you associate that idea with Tommy, Quadrophenia, The Wall, A Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, I, Robot, Tales of Mystery and Imagination, 2112, Ziggy Stardust, Abigail, Operation Mindcrime, Bat Out of Hell, Joe's Garage, Rift, Misplaced Childhood, Jesus Christ Superstar, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, Brain Salad Surgery, or Repo the Genetic Opera, or any of the other countless mainstays of the genre. If you love your prog with a heavy dose of musical theater, this bud is most decidedly for you. What gives Dream Theater their staying power is not only their staunch refusal to play by the rules of pop radio, but the brazen fortitude with which they flaunt their shameless progressive metal nature. Where the punk rock bands of CBGB flaunted their disregard for cultural norms in the sleazy abandon of their sloppy, punkish musical performances, Dream Theater exude the same energy, the same middle finger in the air, simply by directing their musicality in the opposite direction. Many bands seem to become sheepish and overly cautious about their progressive intentions. The later Jeff Tate Queensryche albums come to mind, and the result is bands that not only feel culturally irrelevant but also half-hearted, as if they're bold and determined to apologize for their previous grandeur. Dream Theater has never had this impulse. They have been not only unapologetic but unrelenting in their pursuit of a sound that is uniquely theirs. Paradoxically, instead of sounding detached and insular, Dream Theater sound at once timeless and eminently relevant, writing music that on the one hand seems to grab the listener by the throat to explore dark realms of mental breakdown and internal strife, and on the other hand, soaring off into the clouds for adventures in fantasia. As a result, Dream Theater is the perfect band to tackle the vast undertaking that is the Astonishing. Rather than snort and roll our eyes at the pompous band that's bitten off more than they can chew and regurgitated more than we care to swallow, we, the listeners, can only give ourselves over to the music, a pure grin of undiluted joy crossing our faces as Dream Theater fills our brain with neon shafts of light, explosions of color, and lucid flybys across neural pathways on an unrelenting joyride into the very depths of the human imagination. Listening to The Astonishing awakens the kind of childhood imagination that we all assume died out a long time ago, the memories of which are only a vestigial remnant of the joys we surrendered when we entered the doldrums of adulthood. Driving through the streets of Atlanta with the album cranked on the stereo, I found myself lost in the kind of joyous realms I visited in Saturday morning cartoons. This is the stuff of anime, the stuff of pulp science fiction, and the stuff of young adult fantasy novels, and prepared by the master chefs in Dream Theater, it is endlessly delicious. Musically, the band is very much in their comfort zone, a zone that can only exist when five of the most capable virtuosos in modern music come together with a clear-cut vision. As always, the music is carried first and foremost by the guitar and keyboard combination of John Petrucci and Jordan Rudess, the two giants of their instruments that seem to effortlessly grasp all music styles and concepts as they relate to their respective instruments and transmute that vocabulary into a fluid display of virtuosic prowess. Petrucci is on full display here, turning in endless speed runs with jaw-dropping fluidity alongside riffs that bear his signature influences of Alex Lifeson, Steve Howe, and Steve Morse. He knows how to fill the harmonic space with extended voicings and melodic phrases that elevate his playing out of mere palm-muted metal guitar accompaniment. Petrucci's instrumental skills are matched on a seemingly telepathic level by Jordan Rudess, whose terrifying chops serve as the cerebral nexus around which the choir and orchestral extensions of outside collaborator David Campbell swirl. The album is also a milestone for Dream Theater vocalist James LaBrie, arguably one of the most criminally underappreciated vocalists on the planet. As a singer who places superlative vocal delivery above all else, LaBrie's style has often been unfairly compared to Michael Sweet from Stryper and regarded as the weak link within the band's sound. In reality, nothing could be further from the truth. LaBrie regularly turns in outstanding performances from both a technical and emotional standpoint, and The Astonishing is arguably his most dynamic performance to date as he tackles unique tones and deliveries for each of the story's characters. The rhythm section of bassist John Myung and drummer Mike Mangini takes a profound step back on this record, allowing space for the story's dramatic flourishes and focusing instead on accenting the orchestra rather than pervasive dynamics. That's not to say they don't both have moments of outstanding chops and virtuosity in their own right, just that overall they feel a bit dialed back in the grand scheme of things. While The Astonishing achieves all that it sets out to accomplish and more, and turns in an endlessly entertaining and thoroughly satisfying 2-CD set, the project does show the occasional moment of strain. This will seem most readily apparent to fans who, like myself, discovered the band with Scenes from a Memory, their previous and only other rock opera opus. The story of Scenes was deeply interwoven and multi-layered, combining themes of political intrigue and heartbreaking betrayal with Buddhist ideas about reincarnation and karma. By comparison, The Astonishing presents a far more simple Disney-style good versus evil narrative, one that, while certainly enjoyable, doesn't capture the intellectual depth of Scenes from a Memory. And John, speaking as one storyteller to another, calling your bad guy Emperor Nefarious is a little on the nose. You might as well call the protagonist Virtuous McDougalley.
And his name will be Norm Hull, because he's just a normal guy. But not everybody will get that. That's just for the scholars 100 years from now.
But those criticisms pale in comparison to what the band accomplishes with this album. You owe it to yourself to get lost in the lavish world of The Astonishing. Every nook and cranny of this 2-disc set is precisely calibrated so that you feel as though your imagination has been taken over and used as the screening house for a narrative pulled directly from your nocturnal thoughts. In other words, a dream theater, and one that will have you smelling the popcorn from the moment you push play. Thumbs up. Hey everybody, thank you for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. Listen, my channel's going through some really cool evolutions right now, and I want to make you a part of it. Subscribe for future updates, but please also donate to support my channel on patreon.com/JO42. I've set the modest goal of $100 per video, and your contribution will help me continue to bring you really cool content like what you just saw. And of course, there are some links to the side there to help expedite that process. So again, thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you again. Peace.